Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
Good morning, my friends. We are back. It is In the Cup, brought to you by drroto.com. I am Johnny Danger, and with me always, Mr. Adam White. How are you today, sir?
I have a little bit of a double hangover going. We got a little
double hangover?
U.S. Open hangover. We got a weekend Bender hangover going. Recent breakup hangover. Like I'm still gonna do my best here, but it was a hell of a U.S. Open. But yeah, let's answer your question. I'm doing, all things considered, quite well.
Good. Well, I watched that final round. You saw. I watched. I sent you photographic evidence that I was watching golf.
Well, I didn't see your eyes on the TV screen. I just saw.
Well, that was in a private box at the Lansing Lugnuts game. I was watching golf, not the Lugnuts. I'm not gonna lie. The high A affiliate of the Oakland A's don't interest me as much as the finale of the U.S. Open.
I can't blame you for that. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit of a unique case, but I would certainly be watching the final round of the U.S. Open, especially that one. Like, that was theater. That was everything you want in a major championship. Two superstars duking it out. You got Bryson.
You mean you and me for the win in our private league? Two superstars duking it out?
That's right. Two superstars who are not currently in the money, but we got bested by Miss Alicia Hunt.
Yes, millionaire maker Alicia Hunt, contributor right here at drroto.com. She eked us out. But I took back-to-back second place, sir, and I feel good about that.
You should. That specifically doesn't win you any money, but it's going to be a good race to see who finishes with those last couple spots. It's a pretty interesting race there.
Well, sir, we only have 3 contests left in our private contest. We've got the Travelers, which I'll let you break down here momentarily. Then we're going to take a couple weeks off. We might take a couple weeks off from the show. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then we're going to head over to the Isles, and we're going to go to the British and the Scottish Opens back-to-back to end out our private league championship. So that's going to be exciting. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get right into the Travelers. Tell us all about it, my friend.
Yeah. Travelers Championship. If you remember last year, Keegan Bradley came out absolutely on fire. I think he birdied like 6 of his first 7 holes, or his first 6 in a row. Crazy to win, but he got his victory. You had guys like Ches Reavie up there near the top, more accuracy guys. I think it's the shortest course they play on tour. You're looking at a course under 7,000. To put that in perspective, the last 2 weeks, Memorial and U.S. Open, you're between 75 and 7,600 yards. So 600-yard difference over 18 holes is pretty significant. It's not really going to favor longer hitters, as we mentioned, but getting back to the stats, par 70, 6,800, just over 6,800 yards. It ranks pretty easy typically. It is a par 70 with only 2 par 5s, but relative to par, it still ranks as a pretty easy course. Old School was redone by Pete Dye, so you got some Pete Dye specialists, Siwoo Kim, that we'd be looking at this week because of their affinity for those types of courses. A lot of approach shots you'll see in the 100 to 150, 175 range, and then quite a few over 200 as well. Pretty even balance though, like not like we've had recently where it's a lot of 200 and up. Fairways are pretty wide. It's really a second shot golf course. As we said, a lot of par 4s, so that's always going to be the case when you have excessive amounts of par 4s. Expecting a shootout. Weather does not look to be super windy or anything that would make it play a little more difficult than usual. So breaking it down, we're looking at accuracy guys being a little more in play this week than normal. Your Bombers are not going to have the advantage they did last week at Pinehurst. So, yeah, like I said, a little bit of a hangover, not because I'm not excited to have some good players here, but when you go signature event, major championship, and then no-cut signature event, it's a little bit difficult, like it will be for the players, to try and get up for this one. So we are going to break it down. We are going to fight through danger, but I'm not super stoked for the Travelers.
Fair enough. Hey, I meant to ask you this before we get into the Travelers. I saw an interview with Mr. Bryson after winning his championship. I think it was Pat McAfee maybe, and they were talking about his 3D printed clubs. and how he plays with a slight curve on his irons instead of a flat surface. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So he's definitely at the cutting edge. I've been looking at 3D printed golf clubs for a number of years. Started with putters. Now it's starting to get more common with irons. It is the future. Cobra's been doing it a little bit with their woods. It's definitely the future of manufacturing as far as golf clubs go. Just much more precise, less human error. So the tolerances get much tighter. But I think there is some merit to kind of it's almost like the bulge and roll of a driver face. So obviously it's working for Bryson. His iron play has been fantastic. He put him in play, I think, like the week before the Masters, and just went out and gained all kinds of strokes on approach. So it is very interesting. He's definitely a different thinker. He's not tied into any one golf equipment manufacturer. So it's not the easiest way to do things as far as like mass producing them at this point, but you're going to see a lot of players going to that in the future.
Dig it. All right, well, let's break it down. Like I said, we're on a little bit of a time crunch today, and that's okay. So we got Scotty Scheffler at the top yet again, of course, at 12.5. They brought him down out of the 13s. I know he won a couple weeks ago, but, he hasn't been that lockdown guy in actual DFS lineups the last couple of times out. What do you think about him here? I know that we struggled 2 weeks ago when he actually won. I mean, it was 33% of the field in our contest that the top 33% scoring of our contest didn't have him in it, even when he won. Are we going to see that again? Is this another field that you think he can dominate? And is there enough value in a 70 person no cut event to pay up for him? Or are you going to do what I've done 2 weeks in a row and just move on from the top end?
We're within like 20 or 30 points of each other in our league. You think I'm going to tell you who I'm playing and who I'm not playing?
You are, because that's what we do every week.
I'm going to be very vague here, but just from a game theory standpoint, I think it's interesting to try and think about this moving forward. This week, I am not hopeful that he's going to be able to fix his putting, which was absolutely atrocious at the U.S. Open. Watching him on Friday, having him in my lineup, and watching him struggle to make anything, and then pressing a little bit, making double on that par 5. Scotty.
I mean, let's be honest, man. He was lucky he made the cut. There were some really bad scores to end the day to get him back down under the cut line.
Yeah, I mean, making it on the number, there's always going to be some luck involved there. He did shoot probably the highest he could have on that round. He missed a number of short putts for birds, but I can't get back on him this week. Just like I said, the putting. I just can't see it being fixed this quick, and then it's going to be a birdie fest. So Scotty's not a guy I'm on this week, but moving forward for sure. Like, if he dips down a little bit and he's as close as he is in this competition, and he's the same way for the British, then I'll be back on for sure.
I dig it. Well, I am, I like to run my simulations. You like to build your model over at Data Golf. I like to run my little simulations over at Paydirt DFS. And it's telling me the way that I am interpreting the data that I am going to start my lineups with Collin Morikawa, and I'm going to skip the 10K and above range.
I can't hate it, and if you're telling me that that's your strategy, then I know I have to pivot because I'm trying to zoom past you this week. But
that's right.
Hey,
I'm an open book, my friend, an open book.
This is true. I definitely think Morikawa is the most logical guy up top to start with. He's been killing it on approach play. He's a very accurate driver. Putter's been pretty good by his standards. Wasn't great last week, but there's definitely reason to look at him as kind of the clear-cut option up top, especially when you look at his price as well. I think that makes guys like Ludwig pretty interesting pivots because he had a rough weekend at the U.S. Open, and guys are going to be looking back up at Xander, and Rory just contended. Scotty's always going to be highly owned from what we've seen so far this season. I think it makes Ludwig a pretty interesting pivot up top. And then Decky coming off a solid performance at the U.S. Open. I think he's going to end up being quite chalky as well. But it looks like it's going to be pretty spread out for the most part in this sort of 9 to 10K range outside of Morikawa being highest projected. I have him at 22. You probably have him at like 10 based on the differences in our
Morikawa, I've got him at 26.5.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have, Xander and Scotty both more than that. So
a guy that's interesting as well, especially if he dips down. Didn't play well in the U.S. Open. Well, he played fine on the weekend, but didn't actually contend. did his usual Tommy backdoor thing. But Fleetwood interests me a little bit at 91. I think with his ownership, he looks like the lowest projection in the 9K range. He is a very accurate driver of the ball. He can get very hot with his irons. I think he could also be a great pivot there. You got Burns just below, just played well last week. He's had a few good finishes in a row. You got Matsuyama just above him, who always garners at least some ownership. I think Fleetwood's looking like a pretty enticing pivot there.
Yeah, I like Tommy. I'm always semi-interested in Tommy. I gotta look at Burns real quick. I feel like maybe I'm thinking wrong about him, but let me pause, please. Let me look at a couple of things.
What are you thinking about him?
Yeah. Burns, man, Burns is that guy, right? I mean, let's look at him right now. 4 weeks ago, he was 9,400. 3 weeks ago, 8,300. Last week, 7,200. This week, 9,000. What's the deal with Sam Burns, and why can't they figure out where he belongs?
They just went really soft on the pricing for the U.S. Open. I mean, you had him down there at 72, Henley at 69. Like that, some of that stuff just didn't make any sense. But
that's true.
I don't dislike Burns this week. I just think he's going to be a little chalky for my taste.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on him. It's not popping out on the model or the simulations that I ran. I kind of am back into two guys I like a lot all year long in the 8K range, and that's Russell Henley at 86 and Coco at 84. Those are kind of that's probably, I'm probably going to start my lineup with one or both of those guys to go with Colin Morikawa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't rip you for that. Like Coco to me at an absolute shootout course, he kind of differentiates himself because he's such a great tee to green player.
Mm-hmm.
By hitting a bunch of greens, hitting iron shots close, and making some putts for birds here and there. But this course, I think a lot of guys are going to be hitting it close, and they putt better than he does. So Coco is not a guy I'm super interested in this week, but I get you on Henley. Everyone else does too, though. He looks like he's outside of Scotty, like the highest projected ownership of anybody.
Well, I mean, not in my ownership list, but ours are always so vastly different, which is funny because when we look at the difference between the model and the simulations, a lot of times the scoring is very similar, but the ownership is like crazy different. And it's always interesting to see where it pans out. Like in this 8K range, are we back on Tom Kim?
I am warming up to Tom Kim this week. I think people want to play him. He's just he's a fun guy. He obviously burst on the scene a couple of years ago. Winning a couple times, President's Cup was cool, but yeah, I do like him this week. I have him projected at 15%. I don't know what your model's saying, but super accurate driver. Irons have been getting back close to the level that they were when he had that super hot streak back in 22. So yeah, I like Tom Kim. I think there's a lot of good reasons to play him. He battled pretty hard last week, just missed on top 25 of the U.S. Open. And the putting has been better. That was really what was killing him earlier in the year. So I do see some merit for that. I got on Harman last week as a little pivot off of Russ Henley. Didn't not pay off, but he didn't quite score as high as Russ Henley. And then you got defending champ Keegan Bradley here. He's at 12%. He had a good stretch of golf earlier in the month and last month. And now people don't seem to be quite as fond of him. But to me, if he's a little bit lower popularity, I'm pivoting to Mr. Keegan. Just had a second place finish here a few weeks ago at the Schwab. Yeah, I think Keegan's a guy that I'm starting to warm to here.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10 guys ranked higher than him that are lower priced. That is a red flag for me. My simulation says no to Keegan Bradley, sir. No.
Okay. I'm giving him strokes gain, warm and fuzzies. Strokes gain, warm and fuzzies. He's got last
I really feel like this is going to be a classic Johnny Danger lineup. I'm looking at, Siwoo Kim, Tom Kim, Benny Ann. This is a classic Johnny Danger lineup course. This is what's happening here, sir.
Okay.
So let's get out of that 8K range. Let's go back down and dip down a little lower into the 7K range. I like Siwoo. He's going to be immensely popular. I don't care. I play him pretty much every time my simulation tells me to play him. I'm in. I love him. He's my number one guy in the 7K range. I probably come back off of Sepp Straka this time around. Probably I lean a little bit more towards Max Homa in this range. I like him a lot. Simulator says there's a huge leverage score for Wyndham Clark, but he's burned me every time I've given it a try. Although it is nice to see him in the 7Ks and not up high.
Yeah, the blow pig. He's really fallen hard here the last couple of months. Like going from finishing second to Scotty twice in a row at Bay Hill and the Players, and now being priced in the 7K range, even in a signature event. Pretty wild. But yeah, no interest. He's driving it very poorly all over the map. Just not somebody I'm interested in personally. I think Sepp, I'm surprised you're off of him because he's a very accurate driver of the ball. He can get really hot with his putter. I think things line up for him to play well this week, despite, as predicted, him disappointing last week at the U.S. Open. Yeah, I mean, Siwoo, it's a die course. It's an accuracy course. Bombers are not going to have a big advantage over him. So I think when you take that part of his skill set out of play, where he's not losing strokes because he's not a long hitter, yeah, it's a Siwoo course all day. I'm gonna have a hard time fading him. I'll give this one away, Danger. I'm probably gonna play Siwoo.
I don't know that there's been a course yet that I haven't played Siwoo on, so I'll just go ahead and keep locking and loading.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some interesting guys down at the bottom of this range too. If you're looking for an accuracy guy who can, not get close on approach and make some birdies, you got Tom Hoge there at 7K. I think that's a fantastic value for a guy who has played well at shorter courses, played pretty well at TPC, at Sawgrass, I should say, and he's won at Pebble, like these shorter courses where the Bombers aren't much like Siwoo. He's like Siwoo light.
What about my leverage darling at 6,700? I know we're not there yet, but we're in a pinch today. Lucas Glover. We love him. We hate him. We love him. We hate him. It's like pulling the petals off the daisy. Where are we on a love him or are we on a hate him pedal? Where are we at?
We love him. We love him not. I hadn't really given much thought to Lucas. His approach play was so bad at the U.S. Open. He absolutely just lit it on fire. Now, with that being said, this is not Pinehurst number 2. Memorial, much more difficult golf course. I think he's back to his comfort zone here. Par 70. He's not losing to the guys hitting the par 5s in 2 because there's only 2 of them instead of 4. Yeah, I could see getting on the love glove. He's not out, but likely to finish top 2/3 of the field if that does anything for you.
All right. Well, who else you got in that 7K range that I kind of skipped over? There's some names. We like Hoge. I like Hoge. I always do. We got Bhatia down there. We got Billy Ho. We got Willie Z. We got a couple of people that every now and then can just throw up a ton of birdies.
Yeah, I think Billy Horschel is interesting to me. He performed well enough last week, made the cut, kind of faded to a T41 finish, but he was showing some really good form after winning back in April. I'd gone T8 at the PGA, T24, T15 at Memorial. Now this is a different type of event than the more difficult scoring courses, but Billy's a guy at that price, and seeing his projection be fairly low, that I have some interest in. So Billy's a guy I'm looking at. Bezuidenhout, I mean, very popular.
Flop lag for Johnny Danger? Did I get on him a week too early?
I think you did. I could see Seabass contending here. So those were the guys I'm looking at. We mentioned Tom Hoge already. Like Willie Z just doesn't have it yet. Detry performed well for the first couple rounds last week and then somewhat predictably kind of faded.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
all right, well, let's get into the 6K range, my friend. We've got a little bit of time left. This is where, we get a little creative sometimes. The first name popped right off the block for me was Adam Svensson at 6,400.
Yeah, with good reason. Great, very straight driver of the golf ball. He does play well at par 70 courses. I can see why, man. I think there's some merit to it. I don't know what kind of upside he brings you. Like, is he going to top 10 in this field? No, probably not. But at 6,400, if you're trying to squeeze a couple, higher price guys up top, not a bad pivot there. You got Mathieu Pavon down here at 68, coming off of a phenomenal performance at the U.S. Open. I mean, he was right there with the guys who didn't quite contend, like Finau, but It's a completely different golf course. I think there's a bit of an emotional letdown coming for him. So it's not a guy that I'm super interested in. One that's looking pretty interesting to me, though, is Adam Hadwin. I did not expect much from him at the U.S. Open. I love my patterns, and right now he's gone cut, third, and cut. So another good finish is incoming, is what that's telling me.
All right, I got one more guy popping up in my simulations with numbers that's hard to ignore. Kurt Kitayama. We talk about him fairly regularly as a decent person to play in our deep dives. Is this one that he could pop up for us and save us a couple bucks?
Yeah, I mean, Kitayama he tends to make a lot of birdies when he's playing well. Like he'll go on long stretches of just being unconscious. So that's a guy I can get on board with, especially at a no-cut event. That said, he can get a little erratic with his off the tee game, so he could pretty easily eject as well. I do like Emiliano Grillo, man. Like he showed some things last week at the U.S. Open that his game is sort of trending back in the right direction. Approach play was there. He's normally very accurate off the tee. So Grillo is a guy that I'm probably going to get back on here after a long stretch of not being so interested in that dude. Yeah, I mean that's kind of where my head's at here. It's a lot of it's going to come. There's not like a big chalk donkey like you had last week in the 6K range.
No, there's not. And what's happening right now is I'm getting sucked back into the Adam Schenk play.
Yeah. The models are liking Schenk. Huh?
The models are liking Schenky at 6,100.
Hey, 61. That's hard to argue with. I mean, he can get on a roll with his putter. You got the Todd father too, right there at the stone minimum, 66,000. Like a lot of people seem to be wanting to play him. He's a very accurate driver. Sitting there at 6K, staring you in the face.
Yeah,
see some people getting on
him. Is it an Austin Eckroat kind of course?
No, I don't think so. Not with his driver, man. I mean, anybody who's as good on the approach play as he is when he's firing, you can see some merit for. But can we just talk? Why is Webb Simpson in this field? Webb, like, he's like Happy Gilmore's grandma, man. You can't just keep giving him sponsors exemptions. He's too old. Too old. Like, when's your last top 20? When I was 16? Like,
I don't know, man.
It's been almost a year, dude. Like, give it up. I'm not mad at him. I'm mad at the tour.
Right. Just keep giving him spots. No love for Jake Knapp at 61. None at all?
No. Driving accuracy course, that is the opposite of Jake Knapp. I think Jake Knapp will probably finish bottom 5 to 10 players in this field.
No. Can you make a bet on that? Can you bet on a guy to finish 65th or worse?
Yeah, like you can normally bet at the big events on guys to not make the cut. I want to bet on him to finish like within 5 places of Diffel. Within 5 places of Diffel. One guy I wanted to mention. Good par 70 player, not a bomber, but pretty accurate. Played very well at the other par 70 recently at the Canadian Open. Mr. Ben Griffin. I think after getting his teeth kicked in a little bit at the U.S. Open, I think he's a good candidate for a bounce back here. And again, like no one's chalking it up super hard here outside of maybe Pavone, just with recency bias. But I like Ben Griffin quite a bit.
All right, I just sorted by a stat, and I'm not going to tell you what, but the guy that popped at the very top, Victor Perez. Can you do it again? Adam?
I just looked at his name. This really is turning into like the Luke List thing from several years ago.
You're like, screw this guy, top 5. I'm on this guy. Missed cut in a very bad way.
Yeah. I'm guessing you were looking at approach play or something because it's not.
No. I'm looking at simulation stuff. I'm looking at points, based on point value, based on a dollar amount per scoring. These are the stats that I usually pick a guy on, Adam, and it says Victor Perez, and I hate it.
Do it. Just trust it. Trust the model, Danger. No, I think at this point, all we have to do to complete the loop of Victor Perez becoming modern day Luke List to me is when I go to the Rocket Mortgage, he's going to be there and he's going to slice a drive and almost hit me with it. And then I'm going to see before my own eyes how his attitude is the reason why he, makes 3 birdies and 4 holes.
What's going to complete the list is I'm going to play him the week he wins, and you're not. That's what's going to complete the circle.
That would be it. That would be, and maybe it's the Rocket Mortgage. Like, I don't know. That would be something, wouldn't it?
That's true. All right, I gotta get out of here, my friend. So, just for the record, that stat lines up number 2 with Siwoo. So,
Makes sense.
I don't know, man. I kind of dig it. All right, you already know where I'm going at the top. I already told you I'm playing Kawa, and I am fading the 3 guys above him.
Yeah. Are we calling 9K and up our top range this week? It's pretty.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say Tommy Ladd contends to get his first stateside W this week. Tommy Ladd, 9,100.
Interesting. And I could play them both. If I'm skipping the top. I could do that.
Good.
Let's see. Mid K range. I mean, you already know where I'm going again. There's no point in even, talking about this. It's Siwoo Kim.
You're so predictable.
I know. I really am.
So boring, so predictable. You're a creature of habit. And I can see why you'd want to go that direction. I am going to go, gentlemen, coming off a very predictable miscut at the US Open, Sungjae Im. Same country as your boy Siwoo.
I know. I like it. Dig it. All right. Fair enough. Who are you going on the value play? Maybe not, the tipsy, this guy could accidentally put it all together, but just the value play. What you got for me?
I think I'm going to stick with who I mentioned before and go Mr. Ben Griffin. I know you're probably going Adam Svensson. It's the first name you mentioned when you popped on, pre-airing the show. So that's probably where you're going to go. But I'm going to go, Ben Griffin, 16.
No, it's true. I'm too predictable nowadays. Next year, maybe I'll be unpredictable. This year, I'm sticking with the program.
I'm predicting you won't be.
Sticking with the program. All right. Who has that magical week and puts it all together in like a 5% chance of, finishing top 10, as we like to call the tipsy pick? Got to be a little drunk to put him in the lineup, but it could just happen. What do you got?
Well, listen, I am going to default to our new partner, DFS Hero here. I'm going to look at their predictive models. So, taking everything out of the brain for a minute and just trusting the model, as you say. Guy with the highest win percentage, who is somewhat of a long shot. It's saying Sepp Straka, man. It's saying Sepp Straka. Oh. So I'm going to trust their data of the guys down below 8K and longer odds. That's him.
Sepp Straka to win. I like it.
I could see it.
I don't know what I got, man. This is such a tough one. 70-person no cut field. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm going Kurt Kitayama. He's gonna put it all together.
Kitayama, interesting.
Boom. All right, my friends. Well, we have to get out of here. But on behalf of Mr. Adam White, I am Johnny Danger. Please make sure you head to the site. Oh, hold, please. One more thought.
Maybe this is late, but Rory McIlroy is not in the field this week.
Oh, yeah. We already knew that, Adam. Come on. Where you been? You really have been on like a 3-day hangover.
We didn't mention it. Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah, because it's old news already by Wednesday, dude. Come on now. Move on.
Well, it came out the same day as the lineups were released, and he's still in all of the model projections. Anyway.
Not in my model projections. He's not in mine at all. He's not even listed, bro.
There's a big red out right in his face. Don't play him.
He's not even on the pay dirt models, bro.
He's not on my models either. I am
not even there.
Triple hungover.
Not even there. All right, we got to get out of here, man. But Adam's got a full breakdown coming at drroto.com. Behind the payroll, make sure you get in there. Lou Landers is always killing baseball. We got team previews. We got all kinds of stuff coming. Best ball content's coming for football. Make sure you get over to drroto.com. Check it out. Adam, I don't know that I'll be here next week. I think I have to take a week off. So we'll see about that. But anyways.
Next week, off week, back for the Rocket, though. We got to be here for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. It's a home game. You're going to be there. You're going to come and watch real golf with me at the venue.
It could happen. All right, my friends. We'll see you.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.